Deputy Assistant to Vice President Dick Cheney for National Security Affairs, and he joins us live. And we're glad to talk to you, Stephen. So I was surprised to hear that it was only yesterday that the urging came down from the State Department for all Americans to get out. What took so long?
Well, it's part of a pattern across the Arab Spring countries, unfortunately, where protest turns to violence, into backlash, oppression, reaction from the regime. And the administration has been actually kind of slow in most of these areas, from Libya to Egypt to Libya, now across the region to Syria. The administration seems to be slowly moving in the right direction, though. They have tried to push forward a condemnation of the Assad regime at the United Nations. It wasn't a resolution, it wasn't enough, but it's moving in that direction.
The Secretary of State talking,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, talking a little tougher as well this past week. Let's take a listen to what the Secretary had to say, and I'd love to get your reaction to it.
Sure.
The government is responsible for the deaths of more than 2,000 people. We continue to support the Syrians themselves in their efforts to begin a peaceful and orderly transition to democracy.
Is this the right message, Stephen? These are the right words?
I think it, again, is a step in the right direction. I think it's still quite difficult for supporters of the administration at home or abroad to understand what exactly they will do to help these opposition movements, whether it's Syria or anywhere, but especially in Syria. This is not a level playing field. Much needs to be done to restrict the access of the autocrat to resources, and much needs to be done to increase the access to resources for the opposition. They need to be able to communicate freely. They need to be able to fund their activities. Our intelligence, diplomats, military folks need to be in touch so that we don't have a situation like in Libya where we said we don't know who these people are. So there needs to be a lot of action moving forward, short of war, that really puts some meat onto the bones of this statement.
In Libya, didn't we freeze Gaddafi's assets and then give some of that money over to the rebels to help fund their efforts there? Is that the kind of thing that we could potentially do in Syria?
Right, but the precedent with Libya is, again, the right direction, but moving absolutely slow as molasses. Rebels in Libya do not have full command of those assets even today, even though that decision has been made. So yes, there's much that should be done where we're going after the assets, first freezing and then conveying access to those assets to the people that we recognize. It's good for the administration to recognize the legitimacy of the opposition. It's good for them to denounce Assad. They have once again chosen a side in this kind of a conflict, but what will they do to shape the outcome? I think that's the key gap in their strategy towards this region right now.
Stephen Yates, a former advisor to former Vice President Cheney. Thanks very much for coming in today.